So I will be refuting that other alternative fuel vehicles are not viable options because of marketing issues and the approach of decarbonization. So, according to Steinberg in his article, Fossil Fuel Decarbonization Technology for Mitigating Global Warming, he's saying that there are scientists that are already working on decarbonizing fossil fuels. Basically saying that they'll take out the carbon out of fossil fuels. And carbon is the one that promotes global warming if it's released into the air. And for my second point, electric cars and other fuel options face marketing issues such as cost and efficiency. So, Catherine Duden-Hofer, in her article, Why Electric Vehicles Failed, says that only through personal experience that a consumer would want an electric vehicle. And because electric vehicles are expensive, there are not a lot of people who would want other viable fuel options. And that's why they focus more on, that's why the majority of consumers rely more on fossil fuels. And then Hugh and Green, in the article, Making Markets for Hydrogen Vehicles, they mentioned that there is no point in buying a vehicle that is powered by hydrogen unless there is sufficient convenient places to refuel it. And they talk about the chicken and egg problem. Which one comes first, the hydrogen or the car? And they say that there are not a lot of hydrogen fuel stations around the world. So where can you get the hydrogen to fuel the car? And Hugh and Green also mentioned that there's a significant risk of the cost of hydrogen cars that will remain too high in 2030 to support significant market penetration unaided. So basically, they're saying that if hydrogen vehicles are already developed, they'll be too expensive. And Mitchell Ng, in his article, Short and Long-Term Cost Efficiency Analysis for fossil fuel versus alternative energy vehicles, mentions that it is ironic that both alternative energy are more fuel efficient, but their initial prices causes a payback time currently ranging from a decade to 4. So basically, he's saying that it will take longer to gain the money back from after buying alternative fuel vehicles. Thank you.
All right, I think I need a clearer statement of what the advocate's claim is, especially with the secondary issues, because I wasn't sure if you were merely summarizing their argument and repeating some of those points and explaining it, or whether you were answering those points and contradicting the position. It wasn't really clear how your arguments applied to the arguments being presented by the advocate. Since we didn't hear the advocate's speech immediately before yours, we need you to give us that kind of insight. It sounds like you're suggesting that there are limitations on these alternative fuel vehicles because of costs and marketing issues. If the advocate's claim was that these vehicles are ready to use now and that they are available now and they're going to become widely used in the future, then I think your argument is definitely applicable to that. that's not the way you presented the claim, and so I'm not sure that that's exactly what you're responding to. If it is, then your argument's a lot more solid than I think it is, but if it's a little bit different, then it sounds to me like we're going a little bit in circles on some of these points. So that's why it's important to make sure that we know exactly what the position is that you are taking in contrast to what the other side is saying. The evidence that you have basically explains that the resistance to electric vehicles is primarily because of purchase price and the length of time it takes to return Gesundheit, to return those costs back to people. The hydrogen fuel vehicle issue is I seem to remember that was the argument that the advocate presented, that it was a chicken-egg sort of situation. So if both of you are saying the same thing, then exactly what position am I supposed to believe here? I do think that there's a reasonable claim here that you can say that alternative fuel vehicles are not ready to replace traditional fossil fuel vehicles. There is another argument that you start with, which I think is an interesting one, which suggests that we're not, in the long run, going to need alternative fuel vehicles. What we need is alternative fuel. We need to change the way that we use the current fossil fuels that we have, that we can decarbonize them in some way. That's a very generic piece of evidence at this point. The notion that somebody is working on it doesn't mean that it will happen, that it'll happen anytime soon, and that it's going to produce the advantages that alternative fuel vehicles would produce. If you could show that, that argument would be a lot stronger. Like I said, I'm just a little confused as exactly what the position that the advocate took is and what your position is relative to that. The information that you cited I thought was pretty good, but some of it sounded like it was the same kind of information that the advocate was citing, so I'm not sure what our relative positions are. All right, thank you.